like to make, either if you're here to buy security services or if you commonly recruit or try to acquire security, I'll try to make you do a better job and get more results for fewer dollars. And on the other end, if you're here to sell security services, or if that's what you do, you're a consultant, try to make your money a little more evenly so that you can afford to do better work for the same you're already serving. So let me see if I need to view this and zoom in a bit. So a major problem that comes up with security is that of a security program only fails because when you hire someone like me or like the people in the audience to teach you what you've done wrong or to improve your security, generally speaking, when they write the report is already out of date, and by the time you process or take those comments in, which is often never, the effect is less than what's desired. And so buying security consulting services turns out not to work. It turns out not to work in a pretty great way. And as an example of this, and to lead into the conversation, I once did a penetration test for a Class A sized network. And 1 year later, when I returned to perform the follow-on network, they had not even changed a single password. All the cracked machines were exactly as insecure as they were the year before. And I quit my job today. I resigned. I no longer do security consulting directly. I generally go around and beat security consultants up and make them feel bad. Make them feel bad because they don't really get the job done. So really the lesson I want to teach you, and I want to go through it in more detail, is that if you make a relationship with a security person, bring in an outsider 1, 2, 3 days a week, or maybe 1 week out of a month or out of a quarter, that person can do more and more good and more effective good for you than if you hire them to solve the problem. So if you bring me in once a quarter and we sit down for a week with the technology teams and the governance and policy, the compliance people, and all the other security aspects of the organization, the software architects, when you give that access on a recurring basis, the people inside your organization can become security experts, and the security expert can become the shepherd or just an outside advisor whose job is not to solve your problems, but rather to keep you honest and clear about what your problems are and how they evolve over time. Boy, this slideshow is just being a jerk. I'm terribly sorry. I need to take just a moment and figure out what's wrong with this presentation. I see that I've downloaded the executive summary onto the screen here. Give me 1 moment and I'll grab the real slides. The gist of the conversation today is really going to go around keeping your head clear and not getting stuck in the details like I apparently have done myself. So I'll be the guinea pig that things can go. I think that there's a problem in general in the software development industry. Software development is always it's insecure. It's poorly done. It happens all the time. It happens every time. And I've been trying to do something about it for 15 years. I've developed some of the better software that's in history, and I've done a very bad job at it. So before I go any further, to kind of give you guys an understanding of where I came from, I made a machine that makes electric toothbrushes when I was a little kid. I've done a dozen different kinds of business software management. I've written casket and cremation software, I've written logging and forestry software, legal software for printing paper forms. I've written a whole version of DOS and Windows and a BIOS system so that an embedded system could run Office without any Microsoft licenses. I've done a lot of challenge parties and worked with hackers around the world. And I guess my claim to fame is that Greg Hoagland and I at Senzik invented commercial fuzzing. There were automated test tools before that, But there was never a software you could download that would fuzz a generic protocol before we invented it. So generally speaking, I took that patent on fuzzing, and I work in the courts. I'm the chief testifier against my own patent. So I think it's evil to patent the things that I've patented. So if you understand, I'm not always the most straightforward guy. To confess, the truth is I've talked about security in well, at least 4 continents over the last 10 years, and I have not once, not ever, not for a single moment worked in a secure environment. So when I say security, I mean to say I can't do it very well, but I know and I've done a little bit of good. I hope that I can help you understand how to do that same little bit of good. So I love this. Security has to come first, that if you build something and then try to secure it, you will fail. And that's obviously true. And all of us, I think, would agree that it's exactly obviously true. And it also comes from outside. You can't trust yourself. You have to go outside and find someone to come in and look at you and say, how am I doing? You need a personal trainer at the gym. You need a lawyer in court. You need a security analyst in the internet. You need someone to come in and look at you from the outside, at least according to my friend Robert Farrell. Of course, the founder of secure computing says security can only come from the inside. In fact, if you go asking people from the outside what security is for you and your program, you'll in fact be sadly disappointed because security can only come from the inside. So if you might tell where I'm going with this, security also can't come first. I know that we just said that it does, and it's some very important to say that it does, but small security companies actually, small software companies don't secure their software. And when they later try to add security systems or technologies, they fail, and they don't recover. So this is why companies as diverse as LinkedIn and teams like Angry Birds have these strange security problems plague their software, even though they have responsibility and money and interest and time. A friend of mine said, would you come please and audit my security software, my payment system? I want to take money from people's credit cards and I want to process it. And so I'm going to be taking their credit card number, names, their address maybe. I'm going to have all the PII, personally identifiable information. And I said, I don't think I'm going to come take your money. I don't think I want the contract. And all the consultants in the office would be wondering in their mind if I'm actually as crazy right now. I said, no, I don't do that security work for you because the truth is, if I charge you $100,000 to get a quarter of the way there, you spend $100,000 on marketing, you'll get the kind of money it's going to take to instead be able to pay me the $400,000 to finish the job. So why don't you go make some money? So I just told the customer, if you heard clearly between the lines, I just told the customer that security wasn't his important goal, and he was selling credit card systems. So I think of myself as somebody who knows a little bit about security and not to buy security products at all. So it's a confusing world if you're an honest consultant and you're telling people what's the best thing to do with their money. It's a strange place when you say, no, I don't sell you the thing that I do for a living. I'd rather that you spend it on something that's stupid like marketing. The problem is that the tight budgets that are allocated to small companies are based on what the investor wants. And the investor wants to invest these many dollars and make more dollars on the other side. And if we say invest this many dollars for the product and this many more for the security of the product, then all of those profit dollars turn into basically just getting paid back, and the investor says, I don't want to. So if you're taking money from outside to build a software or provide a service, and you intend to secure that, people who are in charge of the money are going to tell you no. So it's rosy, it's nice to talk about how we make security work better, but the reality is you can't buy security for a software company. The only thing you can do is follow the thing that said security comes. You get people to take one little step today and one step tomorrow and another step in a week and another step in a year, and hopefully, end of this long 3-year process, by the time someone comes around to attack you and put you on the front page of of Wired and New York Times and Times of India, as they come to attack you, hopefully over those 3 years you've become good enough at it that even if there's a problem, You're aware of what your problems look like. You know what it's like to fail. You've been there, you tried it, you tested it, and so failure is only a small problem. So if you failure a small problem by taking small actions, then you don't have to ask stupid questions like the one on the bottom of the slide. How much security can you get for $20,000? And even worse, there's actually a 500% price margin between two clients, and those are the two widest picks. I went surveying a bunch of companies, and I might have gained proprietary access to their sales information. I might have put it here in compressed format to tell you how widely security services are priced. In fact, most of the companies who are implied by this slide would absolutely say that they're in fact not charging this little. They charge way more than that. But the truth is that they never actually end up charging what the price rates stay. If you look about what you're going to get for $20,000, some companies will charge you $8,000 for that product, and some will charge you $40,000. And when you really think about that, maybe somebody in this audience is 5 times better than somebody else in this audience, but how many companies are really 5 times better? I mean, are McDonald's French fries really 5 times better than whatever the other option is, or is tikka masala really the 5 times better of a dish than paneer? I think look at things that have a 500% spread. Almost none of them exist. There's just very little that can be done to make one thing 5 times another. And so if the companies are charging 5 times more for the same service than their competitor, how do you even make a decision about how to spend that money? And my answer is you don't. That if you're buying services from a security company, sorry all you security companies out there, if you're buying services from a security company, then you're probably throwing your money in a hole, and you should probably just throw your money in a hole so you can go get it back. Instead, if you're investing in a relationship with a security advisor, if there's a person out there who knows you, it's like your personal trainer, or like somebody at the gym who makes you work out harder, or you're the friend who won't let you tell lies about what you did last Friday night. A person who knows you from the outside, who isn't there every day, whose business isn't involved with yours, their profit isn't your profit. That person, they can tell you what to do, even just like a best friend can. They can tell you what to do even though they can't do those things themselves. So my contention about small software companies and why they don't secure themselves is that the problem is not cost in the end. They could go to the cheap vendor. The problem really isn't even skills or talent. The problem is that they've got something else better to do with their time. It's unimportant to be so distracted by security that you don't get the job done. In fact, securing, as we say, securing a computer is easy if you just turn it off and throw it in the ocean. No one will hack it from there. But in an environment where you don't have time, where you don't have the luxury of looking around and thinking about it, and you don't have the luxury to fight for budget and look for money, in that environment, it's difficult to understand how any software company would ever secure something. And so I think it's important that when we buy security services or when we sell security services, that we keep a clear focus on the reality that work doesn't get done by projects, and that companies don't get secured by hiring by having one analyst come through. In fact, every security analyst in the room knows they'll go back over and over and over again to the same clients. So how do you get what you need in this pessimistic world where nothing works and no one is going to be honest and you're wasting your money and everything is horrible? How is it possible that you get what you need? And so I say it's important to know exactly what your goal is. And for software companies, which is where I think most of the most important work is done for security, in software companies, what the goal is really to make the new program secure enough before it's famous enough to be a target. And that means starting early in the cycle, investing slowly, very slowly over time, but consistently, stably, constantly pushing to change the plan from build it, sell it, secure it, build it, sell it, get it hacked. Instead of that model, how about build it and learn how to build it securely and make little changes over time? find a policy and find someone to help you execute that policy as a team. And so changing your view from a service-oriented security view, that is, I'm going to go, I heard it from 10 years ago, security is not a product. You cannot buy security. A firewall is not the solution to your problems. Yeah, well, a service is just a product of people. It's just another product. So buying security service is really the same kind of folly. It's a little better because the people are more configurable. They can lie to you in new and interesting ways. But the truth is, you really need somebody not to service you, but rather to just be there and guide and advise you. And if you're a consultant today, I feel like you need to be going to your clients and saying, how about we change the relationship? How about I reduce your annual budget that you would pay me anyway by 10%, and I come in 1, 2, 3 weeks a quarter, and I advise you moment by moment how your people can get smarter and how they can do a better job. How about I become your CISO, but I don't want to show up every day. I'm too lazy, I sleep in, it's just too much work. I just want to come 1 day a week, or one week a month, or 1 week a quarter. That advisor that you select really needs to be somebody who understands your problem. So if you're looking for security and you're a game developer, you need to get a security person who's been a game developer before. If they don't understand what you do, if they haven't been in the Army, then how do they understand possibly how to secure military computing technology? If they haven't built games, how do they know about response time and scalability for multiple users and language internationalization, user interface modes and models? Really, the best idea that you can have is to ask your advisor, to have an advisor to whom you can say, please write a job description for the person I need to solve this next problem. Please write a statement of work that I can use as a contract negotiation point. You write that, and then I'll go acquire the service. I'll go have a traditional consulting firm solve my little problem while you continue focusing on my big problems. So I'm talking about a permanent relationship with a security advisor, and anybody here who has a budget under their control has a shocking feeling in their seat right now, saying, oh, wait. You guys charge what, and you want me to pay you every day? The cost problem is very crucial once you get your attitudes right that you need to have this advisor. Managing cost is important, and so I say, don't pay the advisor by their work. Don't pay the advisor by how many days they show up. In fact, don't pay the advisor at all based on activities. Pay the advisor based on time. You get $10,000 a quarter, and if I have security problems that show up, you're fired. End of the discussion. Here's your money. Come in and teach everything that's needed, if that's in a day a week or a week a month, however that relationship needs to happen. Teach my people how to work in a functional manner, that is, how to get their jobs done, and think about the security ramifications. At least note when they leave a STIR-N copy in place or a STIR copy, so that an auditor later can come by and make the difference by knowing what to look at. See, if everybody in your company is clear on their job, if everyone is clear on the need to secure the product, and they know that there's not an outside safety net, suddenly the people who care, suddenly the people on your team become the security experts. If not good at it, at least they become the security experts for now. So how do you measure? How do you know that you're getting your money's worth? I've just said now that you're going to throw money away and not even get any work for it, that you're not even going to measure the person based on their project. So there has to be some means, if you adopt this attitude, there has to be some means of saying this is good enough for the money I'm getting or not. And at this moment, I'm going to shill for a company I don't work for, I've never worked for, and I have no interest in. If you've got a better model than the building security in maturity model, please use it. This is not about the model, but I would like to call out that Cigital has done a good work over the last 7 or 8 years to build a maturity model based on the idea that every company's security is a little different. And the BSIM version 4, which was just released after I wrote these slides, BSIM version 4 talks about how do you manage the secure software development lifecycle, the SSDL. And several little activities, architectural analysis, code review, and testing form the sort of skills inside that domain. And the other 3 domains are governance, intelligence, and deployment. So how do you run your company? How do you organize? How do you decide who gets passwords and keys and access to which parts of the building? Which PCI compliance or other compliance concerns do you have? What PII do you have? That's all in governance. Intelligence is really about learning what the new attacks will be. See, if you have an advisor who's bringing this information in, that's great, but the corporation, the group needs at some point to send people here. People have to go places and learn the new techniques and technologies, and that shouldn't be the consultant. I mean, why would you pay to send a consultant to go gain a skill that he's going to then charge you to use? No, send your people. Be the people that go out here if you're not the budget holder. Those 4 domains effectively describe all of the security activities that a corporation can engage in. And so, if you have a maturity model, and you have an advisor who understands it and understands your business, and you have smart people working for you who are willing to show up and listen and pay attention and become these experts, suddenly you've got a little bit of each. You've got someone from the outside, security comes from outside. You've got a group of people from the inside, security is built up from the inside. You're building it yourself and you're investing over your own time. That kind of a depth starts really with some simple activities. You just get the group together and say, well, we're going to decide on a password policy. And I know I'm picking a trivial example, but you get together and you answer a few questions and say, what would be best for us? Which passwords are we going to remember best in this company? Are we all really smart people with 20 mixed character passwords, or should we use the simpler, 5 short words as passphrases? When you get that priority that comes up from your own people and from your crowd, that the prioritization that they give you can allow you to say, well, I've decided that my budget is so large. Here are the activities I can afford to get done in the next quarter. Let's engage those, and your own people do most of the work. And the advisor is there to help them lay plans, to help check in on them and make sure that the work is being done in a timely and appropriate fashion. And suddenly, you will have, as a result, a growing, evolving security program inside a very small company for a cost level that's unthinkably small. Maybe 10% of the total cost of security spending is what's the appropriate level for most companies in their first year. So I think that the important piece here, when we're looking at the result in a mechanical sense, how is it going to work? All we need to do is periodically go back and say, what did we get done? Not, did everything come in on time? See, that whole idea of a deadline means that if things are harder than you thought, then the cost is going to rise. Instead say, we're going to spend this much per period. We're going to increase that much over time as we grow the corporation, or as the group increases its success. And we're going to bring in this advisor, and we're going to let things take how long they take. And this is the radical bit. This is the part that the financial guys in the organization often will balk at, because they want to see deadlines. They want to know that this money was spent in the first quarter and that money was spent in the second quarter. And the truth is, security programs may not be so easy. So if we can agree with the financial people to take a little bit more perspective, a little slower time to adopt each of these technologies as the meetings, as the planning leads us toward security maturity, then I think that you can gain a lot of benefits. And some of them are obvious. You comply with the regulations about personally identifiable information. There's a 30x reduction in cost of bugs over time. That's 97% cost reduction. And usually that's when the financial guy starts shutting up. This is not a joke, and that number is not an exaggeration. Forrester did a very, very comprehensive analysis. And what they said was that companies that use outside services for security pay 30 times more for software development in the defect tracking than people who build the security program from within and use external advisors. That reduction is so large that in some cases it means a 50% decrease in time to market for the product. And I know that we're here to talk about bugs and exploits, but the truth is that all of us are being paid by those products getting to market. And so a product that gets to market in half the time, costs half as much, makes twice as much profit in a marginal sense. And all that margin is money for you and for me. That's where we get our dinner. That's where our lifeline comes from, is just straightforward making margin for customers. There's a few other things. Staff competence grows. You avoid hiring people like me that charge a lot of money for very little work. And the last one is, as I said earlier, the goal here is that by the time you're big enough to notice, you'll be strong enough to withstand the attacks that'll come. And that attitude is so radically different among software developers in technology teams. If they say, wait a minute, you mean that when we get famous, we're also going to be good at it? And it just motivates, it compels smart people when they realize that they can do better than just doing their job and then letting someone else come in a month or 6 months later and tell them how badly they've done. So to conclude this presentation, I want to state the beliefs I have. One, you cannot not do security. That's intolerable. And anyone who tries to choose that path is wasting their investors' money or their own future profits. Hiring security staff is not profitable. Buying security services doesn't really work very well. And I guess my view is that slow food is better than fast food, and slow security is better than fast security. For the TLDR crowd, everything I just said, and I'll skip to the next slide and not waste your time. So I said at the beginning that talking about business is pretty horrible and boring for a crowd like this. So let me give you one little bit of architectural insight for software development. Starvation attacks, often called denial of service attacks, are ways to consume resources when many, many sources have access, when many pulls, demand sources exist. So we can stop almost all starvation attacks. In fact, if you have a denial of service attack feasible in your protocol or your program, then you just need to implement this simple algorithm. On Wikipedia, this is under BLUE, B-L-U-E, all capitals, queuing. Stochastic fair blue queuing is the actual protocol. And the deal is you say, I'm going to make 100 buckets and figure out a random distribution, and every user will end up in one of the buckets. And every bucket gets rate limited. So if one bad user comes in and starts pulling very hard on the system, one bucket gets assigned the penalty and gets rate limited, and the other 99 are held open. So 99% of your users get 100% access to the service they want, and 1% of your users get stuck in a bucket with the bad guy. And so every minute or so, we pick a random number R, and that allows us to cycle so that everybody spends time in a different bucket, and ideally in a hashed fashion, a non-predictable fashion, so that this user who's doing bad is now with that section of the group, and now with that section of the group. And so 99% of people at every moment are being satisfied, and then over time, 99% of all people who aren't the attacker are satisfied. This fair access to a queue is so easy to implement, in fact, that all we really need is a hashing function, bucket hash for queues, and at the bottom of it, put a rate-limited queue. This technology will eliminate starvation attacks in all cases, unless you have a large distributed input source and many coordinated attackers. So this doesn't stop anon. This doesn't stop governments who are trying to force you into bad places. But when you're writing regular software and when you're dealing with web servers and web services, with a stochastic fair blue queue, there's no reason ever again to have a denial of service attack affect your customers or your users. That is my penance for talking to you about business. I hope that it has made it worth the minutes to get through to this part of the conversation. And with that, I would like to open it for questions. That's all I have to say. Well, if there are not going to be any questions, then we can all go to dinner and drinking soon. Very good. Thank you very much. My name is Caesar, Riley Eller, and I've been to NullCon twice now, and I will be in Goa next and bringing some more American hackers because we're very, very excited to see the development of hacking in India and increasing the global skill set. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for letting me have your time.